Good guys finish last. Have you heard this statement? I'm sure you have. Fellow Toastmasters and guests, when I was thinking about what my speech should be, I read a book, Givers and Takers. Today I'm going to talk about the givers part in the book. It's a beautiful Sunday afternoon in Sunnyvale. Two proud fathers are watching their kids play soccer. One of them is Danny Shader. Danny Shader turns to the other person name is Hornick, saying, Hornick, I have this idea that I would like to discuss to you about. You would have figured out now, Hornick is a venture capitalist and investor. And Shader is an entrepreneur who sold his last company for $500 million. I'm sure Hornick is interested in. The next week they meet, they discuss about the idea. Hornick likes the idea. He's able to convince his partners in the firm to fund Shader's idea. But Hornick is a different species of venture capitalist. He tells Shader to take his time and decide whether he wants to go with Hornick or not. He does provide references about his previous projects. This is unheard in venture capitalists. They try to push and get the deal going, but Hornick wanted to make sure Shader gets the best deal. He practically asked him to shop other venture capitalists. Finally, after a couple of weeks, Hornick gets a call from Shader, where Shader says, I am sorry, I have decided to go with some other venture capitalist. If you think about this story, then you may be agreeing to what I said earlier, good guys finish last. There was a couple of research done with a couple of engineers in California, around 160 of them. What was noticed in that research is that all the guys who had low scores in terms of performance seemed to have a high giving score. The same thing was observed in a 600 group student in Belgium. They were studying medical and all the lower performers seemed to have a high giving score. That's pretty interesting, isn't it? It's a brutal world, you may think. But, of course, there is a twist in the tale. Although the bottom performers had a very high giving score, the interesting part was the top performers in both engineering and medical had high giving scores too. So what are the opposite of givers? Givers are somebody who give more than what they take. And the opposite of givers is takers, who take more than what they give, who believe dog eats dog, the world is a brutal place, everybody has to take care of themselves. Of course, you cannot categorize people with just two categories. So you have something in between, matches, who make it tit for tat. When you think about this, okay, fine, profession, it may work because you have a team effort. What about politics? Do you think givers can even survive in politics? Let's talk about a story of a politician called Samson. Samson was a farmer, but he wanted to run for the Senate. He tried to run for the state legislature first time, failed. Then he tried again. He was successful this time. And during the time in his state legislature, he managed to study his law degree. Finally, when he decided to run for the Senate, he was facing two tough competitors. Both of them chief justices earlier, and one of them the incumbent, and the other person was the nephew of a congressman. You know how that works now, right? It was a very difficult race. Surprisingly, he was actually ahead. All right, things look good. But then there was a twist. The state governor decided to run. The moment state governor came into, one of the candidates withdrew, and Samson was pushed to the second state. The state governor was ahead with 44%, Samson was around 35%, and the third person, his name was Trumbull, was at 9%. Although Samson wanted to win, he did not want the state governor to win because he had questionable practices. He thought the governor was corrupt because he even came to his own team members trying to get them to support him. And he liked Trumbull. Trumbull and him shared same philosophies. Now, in this state, Samson did the unthinkable. he withdrew from the race and asked his supporters to support Trumbull. Of course, Trumbull won. This was unheard in political history. People thought Samson is done. The real name of Samson is Abraham Lincoln. Abraham Lincoln not only ran for the Senate eventually, Trumbull was a bigger supporter of Abraham Lincoln. He went on to become one of the best presidents this country has ever known. In an independent poll, he was voted the top 3 presidents. It didn't stop there. When Lincoln became the president, he was the least egoistic president ever. He invited the Republican contenders to be the Secretary of State, Defense, and the Chief Justice. Because he was a giver. He wanted to give this nation the best they could offer. He did not want yes men around him, then he would have been a taker. He didn't want allies, then he would have been a matcher. But he was a giver. If a giver could succeed in politics, then think about every other field. The problem was when we initially thought they lost, we were looking at a short instance. But life is not a 100-meter dash, it's a marathon. So when you extend it over the time, you see givers eventually win. In the future world where everything is going to be around service, giving is one of the most important aspects that any of us could learn in a professional world. Givers may not win today, but they will win eventually. Thank you, Toastmasters.